Well, it looks like we have another candidate jumping into the GOP primary. He hasn't formally announced, but he is in Iowa doing speeches, a part of his tour, going through likely states he wants to start getting support. And then this is Republican Senator Tim Scott. And as I've said in the past, I love the people and the state, the people of Iowa and the state of Iowa. But politicians seem to have one reason they show up in Iowa for speeches. They're preparing for a presidential run, is usually the situation. So with that being said, Tim Scott appeared on Sean Hannity's show and did what we've seen Nikki Haley do a lot, which is, I think I'm the best candidate, but when you ask me about the one other candidate in the GOP primary, I'm gone. I'm not going to answer that question. And I'm going to do everything to make sure people know I'm not criticizing Trump, which is really sad to see, honestly. So take a look at this. Sean Hannity asking him about Trump and his response.
In the ring, we know President Trump was the first to announce that he will run again in 2024. But then you hear names like Governor Sununu in New Hampshire, Larry Hogan in Maryland. You hear names like Ron DeSantis in Florida, Glenn Youngkin in Virginia, and others. What are the differences in terms of policy positions that, for example, you may have with President Trump?
Probably not very many at all. I am so thankful that we have President Trump in office. Frankly, the policies that we were able to pass from 2017 to 2020 were monumental. And thank God we went into COVID with a strong economy.
We'll continue with the clip. But if you think Trump's so good, he's already running. Why would you want to get in the race? You need to be bringing unique value to get elected, I assume. But it's this weird game people are playing because, and again, I promise we'll continue with this clip, but in the Democratic primary, there are things that voters want, and often there's some kind of hardcore loyalty batches of the Democratic Party. There's some people who are with Bernie all the way. But for the most part, people are looking and they're thinking, okay, what are people going to present? And I'm going to support who is going to fight for and support the things that I believe in, that aligns with me the most on policy and on other issues as well. That is how it should be. Now, plenty of issues with the Democratic Party, plenty of issues with the primaries, all that. Okay, but just in a general sense. Because Republicans have this reality where a big old chunk of their party is just Trump no matter what. Not Trump because he has particular policies. Trump because Trump. Trump is the justification for the support of Trump. It's a cult. They have to play this game where they think they can get the support of those people, but they know how much they love Trump, so they don't want to rub them the wrong way. It's not going to work. If they want someone who really likes what Trump likes, they're going to support Trump. You would have to bring something new to the table, and Tim Scott is clearly, if he decides to formally announce, not going to be that person.
The unemployment rates for African Americans, Hispanics, for women, Asians, all to all-time lows, or the lowest since World War II. We passed opportunity zones, my signature legislation that brought more than $29 billion back to the poorest communities just in 2019, leading to the lowest level of poverty ever recorded as a country.
By the way, quickly, because he's making all these economic points, I've made this before, but lots of people are new to the channel every day, so to make it again, the point of under Trump, unemployment got to record lows, and Hispanic unemployment, Black unemployment, all the different numbers they cite, is the same thing as me and Ben, producer Ben, going out and we're digging a big ditch for some reason. We're going to do a pool, okay? You ready? And I dig, actually, just to flip it around so I'm not, Ben digs 10 feet down, okay? And then he leaves and I dig 1 foot down. If I said and took credit for digging the deepest hole that we've ever dug in our entire life, that wouldn't be exactly fair because Ben did a whole lot of the work. it's a similar thing here where if you look at the way the economy was going, it was gonna keep growing for a bit, and unemployment had gone down a lot under the Obama administration. I'm not saying it's all because of Obama. We understand the economy is much more complicated than that, but they seem to have that basic of a view on economic conditions. And so then big changes happen, and then boop, bop down a little further as far as unemployment goes, for example, under Trump. And so then they can take credit for the lowest this, the lowest that, even though it actually wasn't as significant as the change we saw under Obama and that we've seen under different presidents, definitely under Biden, obviously recovering from the pandemic. So understand the dishonesty of that talking point.
I think the policies that we fight for as conservatives are the policies necessary to stop the Democrats from ruining America.
So might we then find ourselves in a position where maybe we'll have 6, 7, 8, maybe 10, maybe 20 Republican candidates on a stage that mostly agree on what the governing philosophy and ideology should be for the country, what works for the country, then where are the differences? What would the differences be, do you think?
Yeah, that's a great question, Sean. I would simply say this. What I'm learning on my Faith in America tour is as I tell my story as an African American who was born into poverty and then a single parent household, the strength of my community, my Chick-fil-A mentor, who happened to be a white guy, a Citadel graduate from in South Carolina, he taught me that you, no matter where you're born, you can rise beyond your circumstances if you're willing to perspire because you're inspired by the American story. Leaning into that helped change my life, bringing people together, black folks and white folks, not because of the color of our skin, but because we have one single focus. We believe in the goodness of America. I want to share with people why.
So a clear policy position there. No. I love that his story is inspiring and all that, but what would you be bringing to the table from a leadership and policy standpoint? You do bring a different story, so that is actually one thing I've talked about. Talking about your identity and your experiences actually matters in politics because it informs your political positions a lot and who you are and the leader you are. So I'm not saying that's without value, but if you're trying to appeal, as clearly you are, to people who have been or are currently supportive of Trump, you're gonna have to establish yourself as a unique candidate, the word I keep coming back to. And when Sean Hannity outlines a possible Republican primary stage where everyone's just tooting the horn of Trump or Trumpism or his policies, how would that benefit their campaign? Doesn't make a whole lot of sense to me. And as a reminder, this is what we saw from Nikki Haley, who has formally announced when asked a similar question.
So if you had to delineate where, say, you and President Trump differ on issues, where would you start?
Well, first, let's say in reference to Whoopi, the thought of me getting into the race makes the liberals' heads explode. And so I welcome it because it shows we're doing something right. When it comes to what we're looking at now, listen to the first 20 minutes of your show. Look at everything that's wrong in this country and tell me we don't need new leadership. But the difference is we need new generational leadership. We have to leave the status quo. We have to leave this chaos behind, and we've got to start talking about the future.
Okay. And then goes on and on and on. Doesn't answer the question, except for I'm younger. Why do you think you would be a better candidate? And again, I say, there's so many reasons you could explain. Hey, start off with, you know what? I'm not the best that there will ever be. And I happen to like a lot of the things that Trump likes. And I'm doing it in this voice, so I can't be clipped. But you're not going to get me saying I like it. But I don't like whenever people attempt coups. You could just start with that. I don't like whenever people don't accept election results. How will you start with that? But they won't, because a majority of Republicans, polling reveals, think the election was stolen. So they have to do this game where I'm more reasonable for the reasonable Republicans, and I'm not going to say everything was horrible and stolen, but also Trump's the best and his policies were good. There it is. It's going to be a very weird time. The only person I see possibly going aggressively against him would be DeSantis, but even DeSantis has a very similar political style to him. So we will see. It'll be fascinating for sure to watch. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to be a part of what makes this show possible, plus get access to the full video version of the show hours before all the clips are uploaded to YouTube, plus get the full bonus show every single Saturday, you can do so by going to patreon.com/Luke Beasley. That's patreon.com/Luke Beasley. Link in the description.